Mark 1 washer jets, they're okay and they're adequate for the job when they're adjusted properly. But can you get something that's a bit more upgraded? Mark 1 washer jets are okay at their job, but they aren't the best, are they? It takes a little bit of adjustment to get the nozzles sitting right. All you need is a tiny little pick, shove it into one of the little nozzles, and you can try and, if you can try and aim it towards the middle of the windscreen, that should be adequate enough, particularly as if you're driving at speed. Obviously at motorway speeds the water is going to want to go further, so if you aim it too high, it can just go over the windscreen entirely and miss the entire windscreen. It is possible. Adjusting of the nozzles is very easy for a start. Now, what I would say about the washer jets on a Mark 1 is commonly Mark 1 washer jets, genuine ones, will not come with a rubber sealing washer that will go between the washer itself and the bonnet, which is weird because all that's going to do eventually is scrub the paint all from around the bonnet at this area of the bonnet, which isn't exactly ideal, but something they corrected on Mark 2s. Now, Mark 2 washer jets are exactly the same as Mark 1 washer jets. They have individual nozzles which you can just stick a little pick through to adjust. Now what you do, you adjust the washer jets using a pick, so you sort of push it up and make sure they go straight. You must make sure they go relatively straight. They should go in like a V, so you aim slightly, I don't know, I would say bring this nozzle out this way and then bring this nozzle out this way. That's the ideal sort of angle. Not directly straight, but straight enough, because if you do it too far, it will just aim across the windscreen and it will miss the windscreen entirely, and then that one will shoot too far that way and then cross over with that one depending on where that's aiming. Now, if you've seen that video just now, that is kind of how they should aim. They should be aimed kind of towards not the middle of the windscreen, just below the middle of the windscreen. No further than that, because remember, it's all good doing this when you're on your driveway and the car's not moving, obviously. But when the car's moving, especially at motorway speeds, if you are travelling at least 20-30 miles an hour, the water's going to want to push more over this way. But if you've aimed it too low, it will just spit back at the bonnet. You don't want that, and you don't want it missing the windscreen entirely. I've seen people where they aim the nozzles kind of sort of here in this area, and then it will just miss the windscreen when you're traveling at speed. So ideally that's the way you adjust the nozzles, not in the middle, but just kind of below the middle. It's a very fine margin, believe you me, and you've got to try and test it a few times to see what works. If you know, take it on a drive, see how they are, what the angle is, and if you're happy with the actual spread of water across the windscreen. They do a relatively good job, and you know, they are what they are. But there are some other options if you need to upgrade, and what I mean are these. Now, this in my hand is a non-heated washer jet off a Mark 3 Focus, and I believe the Mark 4 Focus has exactly the same washer jets as the Mark 3. They are all applicable for Mark 1 or Mark 2. They're all applicable. They will all fit. They were always made with the same gap, so you can basically they're totally interchangeable. But if you look here, there's just a single little hole, and that is literally a mist. This is an old-fashioned nozzle. Mark 2s are exactly the same. They just splat water at the windscreen like most washer jets from 20-30 years since the 70s, when they were just dribbles. Literally, you got this little metal washer jet that you kind of adjusted with a screwdriver, and it again, one fractionally too high, it misses the windscreen, fractionally too low, and it just spits back onto the bonnet. No good. But these are what you'd be, most people be familiar with these, but most people will also be familiar with these now. I mean, these mist washer jets have been around since the Mark 3 Focus, or even earlier that, I believe on the Mark 6 Fiesta potentially, and they spray a very fine mist of water across the windscreen, and it does allow the windscreen wipers to spread the water much more easily. It is something I have done myself, hence why I've got these, but I've since reverted to the originals because I like originality. But if you want a subtle modification, go for it. But you might notice one thing. I have actually got heated washer jets on my car. You won't tell from the outside, but they were often fitted in conjunction with a heated windscreen, which I do have. You will most usually have heated washer jets. They are, I believe they use the same fuse. They may not use the same fuse on some cars, but I believe on mine they absolutely do. So when you turn the heated screen on, these also turn on as well. Now, in the way a heated washer jet works is there is just the finished wire, copper wire element inside there, and that is enough to unblock a nozzle, which I'm not joking. You know how small they actually are. You know, you have to get like a hairpin to actually unblock the nozzles. It's very common for these nozzles to actually block up, so just get a hairpin and it will basically clear itself up. But frozen washer jets in the winter is quite common, and if they're frozen, your windscreen will be frozen. So well, if you're going to press the switch for that, they might as well work as well. So they work together when you press the heated windscreen switch. But you may ask why I've got a non-heated one in my hand. This is what I bought, and the reason for that is it's quite a common fault on these heated washer jets for them to not work. Now, usually it can be the element that just breaks because it's so small. Like I've just said, they can just break. The only way you'll know realistically is if it's frozen morning, your windscreen's frozen, you've pressed the heated screen switch, but there's nothing coming out of the washer jets when you actually operate the washers. Nothing. And that is because they're frozen, and that should have unfrozen itself when you press the switch to clear the windscreen. That is a broken element most usually. You can measure them. There's two little electrical connectors, which I'm going to show you in a second, and you can just do a continuity test between them. And if it's an open circuit, the element's broken, so you just need another one. And they're a little bit more expensive than the non-heated ones. You can get them aftermarket, but I would get Ford ones because they generally last a lot longer. I think the aftermarket ones are not great, but I actually didn't even bother repairing mine because of this particular issue. Right, I've brought you under the bonnet, and as you can ideally see, you have all this wiring. If you have heated washer jets, you will have all this wiring. Now, I've had to retape some of this because I think the original tape is horrible. It's like that cloth material, and it's absolutely vile. I redid all mine in normal insulation tape, and it looks a little bit neater. Again, so you've got your plug. And this is the plug where you measure if you've got continuity. There's two connectors, there's two prongs, and you just measure between them. And if you've got an open circuit, you know that you've got a broken washer jet. If, however, there is electricity in it and it's not an open circuit, there's nothing wrong with it. I will show you what the problem is. If we come along here, the wiring goes all the way down here, and it goes through this piece here, okay? And what frequently happens with, well, that's the pipe, I should say, that's the pipe. The wiring sort of comes through this little piece here, okay? Now, what happens with the opening and closing of the bonnet over many years, and the fact that for some reason this wiring is a little bit frail, they tend to snap and tear just here. Now, this is not the original routing, I will tell you. Usually it would go way into the scuttle. I've had to route mine this way because I couldn't be bothered to take the scuttle off and disturb all the pollen filter. But basically it will usually run all the way here and go into the loom just here. Now, I have had to rewire all of this, mainly because I had a break in the wire over here, and I decided to get the loom off a Mark II Focus. The Mark II Focus has exactly the same wiring loom for the heated washers, okay? So I was able to get one off a Mark II and basically solder it all the way as close to the actual, I think I soldered it around here. So all this is brand new. Okay, what I did do is take that horrible cloth tape off, as I said, and put proper insulation tape on, and I've routed it in a much better manner, and we've got a lot of flex, because I think the original wire is so taut that as soon as you open the bonnet and there's some frailty in the copper, it's just going to snap. And that is a common problem for them to actually snap. That's why your heated washer jets don't work. So if you have reheated washer jets and you're not sure whether they work, just do a quick continuity test on both of them, and if they're fine, check the wiring, and if that looks okay and it's not broken, you'll see it will be frayed, it will be broken, it will be obviously broken. If not, then you have got working working jets. As far as anything else is concerned, those are the only two problems that I could see with these heated washer jets. But the thing is, with this, I couldn't be bothered at the time. I mean, this was before I started really getting confident working on my Focus, so I decided to buy some non-heated ones and throw all this wiring in the bin. All the old wiring went in the bin. I cut it off at the plug, and I didn't bother with it. I just left it until I came back to it last year and did all this wiring as I did. So I put some non-heated ones in, and these are fantastic, and I'm actually going to show you the difference it makes. Take the pipe off and just take the connector out. I say those are the two connections that you need to be testing. If you can see that in there, yep, those are your two connections, and all you need to do is get a flat blade screwdriver and just push down on the tab. I can't really do it on camera because it's a bit tricky, but basically that's what you do with a flat blade screwdriver, and the washer jet should just come straight out, which it probably won't do unless I put pressure on it. 2 seconds. It's a bit fiddly, but once you've given it a bit of a push, it will just come straight out, and just pull it out with its associated wiring. Just watch the plug. Come on. There we go. Now, you may have noticed one thing also. When I actually subsequently refitted a Mark II wiring loom, these washer jets came with it. And these washer jets actually worked. My original ones apparently didn't work either. So I had two issues in mine. I had a broken wire and non-functioning heated washer jets. So I bought these second-hand ones off a Mark II. Hence, we have this rubber sealing washer. Well, a sort of gasket, more or less. And these only came on the Mark IIs. You would not have got this gasket on a Mark I, but you can swap them over. If you get the gasket, just swap them over, and you won't have any of this shrubbing business going on. Luckily, I caught mine just in time. But anyway, I'm going to swap this over and put the new one in. Okay, there's my new one, and we got the tab. Remember, that tab goes in last, so remember we put this in the little groove at the bottom there, and oh, it's actually gone in straight away. Oh, it's clicked in. There we go. That was relatively easy. Right, now let's just hook up the pipe. Okay, just be gentle, because that can be a bit fiddly sometimes. Anyway, that's gone on. Now let's see what happens. Now, I will say one thing before doing this. Those Mark III and Mark IV washer jets, the mist jets, are not adjustable. They are as they are. They will throw it in a mist function exactly as intended. They are non-adjustable. Okay. Look at that. Splash. Look at this one. Oh, it's the finest mist ever. So, imminently and conclusively much better at spreading the water on the screen. Now, what I am going to look to doing is you can get equally Mark III heated washer jets with that mist function. Okay, they are exactly the same as a non-heated one that I've just fitted, but I just need to locate some, and there's plenty around. I just haven't got round to doing it. There are so many things on my list, paintwork, etc. I've just left it for quite a while, but these will do for now. But I will be upgrading to Mark III heated washer jets exactly like that, because I think they're absolutely amazing. They're non-adjustable, they throw the lightest mist ever, and I suspect it will save you on screen wash. So do you know what, this is an absolutely top tip. You know, if you're not happy with your Mark I nozzle jets, then please go to this type, Mark III or Mark IVs. Mark 2s are exactly the same, they just come with that rubber gasket. So if you have wiring issues, get another wiring loom, get a one off another Mark 1 or Mark 2, or just wiring your own. It's not hard. It's very low powered cable, probably 3 amp cable, and you just basically crimp it or solder it onto the old connectors that will go onto the washer jets, and make sure it's connected to the loom where I've said, and you're good to go. There really is no issue with that whatsoever. So I thought I would show you this in this episode, because this is a really neat upgrade that has been done before by a few people, but I thought it would be good to promote this to the overall public that actually watch me. So thank you for watching, and I will see you very soon.